Righty. So my name is Devin, and this is...
My name is Vera Franco.
And we wanted to say, first of all, that we're glad to have, even though it's a smaller group, we're glad to have a group of people who are here interested in discovering more about first Gremlin and second Gremlin transformation work, which is the work that we're going to be offering over the next bunch of weeks, but starting in this little space is really where that work begins. And a little bit about, we'll probably say more about the Gremlin transformation space later in this call. The first thing I want to communicate about it is that one of the things that we've discovered in possibility management is this gremlin piece, this gremlin part was discovered a few years ago. And it was initially thought that just by going to trainings, by going to Expand the Box and by going to lab and by doing some practice, that people could get really a manageable relationship with their gremlin and a transformed gremlin. And it's turned out over the last couple of years that the relationship with gremlin, and particularly transforming the gremlin into a useful part, takes more work than was initially, takes more work and more concentrated work, and does really well in teams than was previously thought. And this space, this gremlin transformation space, emerged out of that discovery, and also the discovery that we didn't know about contamination, or how contaminated people's adult ego state could be with their child ego state and with their gremlin ego state. And so this is also a part of where the lineage of the gremlin transformation spaces and gremlin transformation work comes from. And yeah, go ahead.
Because you're here, I'm assuming that you're interested in working with the unconscious part of you that has been in some way affecting your life. And this is, for me, the part that gives me the most turn on to share with you. Because I've been the last, I would say 2 years, working a lot with decontamination of the adult ego state, like Devin was saying, and working with people towards becoming real, like clear, free, like high level fun, big potential, big realization adults. And in the process of coaching this decontamination, what I've noticed is that a lot of gremlin distinctions and practices need to be there. That actually a lot of people, even if they have been in possibility management for a while, they were referring to gremlin in a kind of theoretical way and not really knowing how to engage with it. And so part of what I've started doing was helping people really discover, really getting to contact with gremlin, really seeing how this part that most people think it's like a hindrance and it's some kind of, it sabotages their lives, it's a saboteur, actually is one of your most loyal forces inside of you. And so I'm so glad that I get to share all of this with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And to start, we wanted to just put a question on the table and hear from everyone here. And the question is something like, the overall question is, what brings you here? But it might also be framed as, what is the pain in your life that has you come to a space like this to learn more about your gremlin, to work with your gremlin? What is the pain in your life? And anybody can start with answering that, and we'll just hear from everybody in this space.
Well, I would start by saying that Gremlin is something very new for me. So I'm just curious to learn about Gremlin in the first place.
glad because we're going to cover that too. Masha, do you know about possibility management at all? Have you ever done any training or any online or offline training with any person?
I've done a Rage Club with Anne-Chloé, and I'm doing Fear Club now with her. And I'm reading the book as well.
Super, this is great. And where are you calling from right now?
Yeah.
Austria?
Yes.
Austria.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can continue, and I need to make a little context of my being at the moment, because after 2 years of something going around the world, not catching me, it caught me. And I just come out of some horrible nights and days with a lot of fever and just endless headache and pain. It's the first day where I'm just like a bit, my eyes are still like, what? So and I just had a Rage Club before this call. So I'm like, oh my God, I need to go to bed. But the pain is so big that I'm still here. Yeah, the pain. I got to know possibility management somehow last year through a friend, where she said, you have to read this book, after I sharing with her how I am, what's going on. And I bought the book, Wahre Liebe im Alltag. I'm sitting in Portugal. Since 10 years, I'm living in Tamera, in the community there. And in general, I'm German. And I opened the book and I was just like, oh my God, boof, for this I need time. So I took some 3 weeks of retreat this winter and just was working with the book. And I came until beginning of the archetypal stuff. And then I thought also, now it doesn't make so much sense to continue reading, because I need to work on the previous things beforehand. And I wanted to do the 1 year training here in Portugal with Marco and Vera Joanna Cruz, which didn't happen because of not enough participants. And so I signed in for the extend the box and afterwards the lab with Anne-Chloé and Clinton in May and June here in Portugal. Yeah, and I started to listen to the podcast of the of the Radiant Brilliant Love, and it's just mind-blowing. Yeah, and I know I'm somehow in me, something knows that's not the way you should do it, but I'm also somehow a learn type, like giving information in, not knowing where, and trusting also that there is a retention, that things will fall in place. And I can feel already how I have some understanding of the one or the other things. Yeah. So this podcast helps me a lot, to get to know a bit more what it's about. Yeah, but still I'm absolutely newbie. My pain is around mainly that I have such a huge anger energy, and I think I exaggerate now. I can hold 100% archetypal anger, and I can put it out, and nobody else can work with it. At least in daily life, people get blown with 10%, and 10% I even don't recognize. Yeah. So there is a lot of pain around that.
Would you say that, you're feeling something? And in these spaces, it really helps to say, I feel.
Yeah,
matters.
I I feel a lot of sadness of being all my life rejected for this life energy I have. I feel fear that I will not be able ever to change it, and this continues. And I feel also rage, anger that just because this fucking environment is not able to deal with children like me, like I was a child, yeah, with a lot of energy, and then something gets twisted, and then there's also a joy because I learned now in the last few weeks quite some things about the angel, yes, like that I can use it, yeah, of course, for decisions, but to really recognize this little moment where you get, yeah, you need it to make a decision, or that I get angry in the places where I care for things, yeah, and so on. So I'm also joyful to get to know this life force in me. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Is it Angela or Angela?
Angela,
Angela.
but you can say Angela also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Angela.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go on. I'm from Switzerland, and I did the ETB last November, and in February I did in Rage Club, and the whole winter I observed this huge machine of strategies to numb myself, and yeah, and I noticed that I'm not willing to put my gremlin on a leash. And I thought, okay, it is like it is. I don't want to do this. And actually, I'm also in this fear club of Chloe. And I recognize that in the back of all this is my fear. I never know. I noticed that there is a low level of fear, and then this strategies of numbing starts. It's very low. It's lower than 10%, I think. And then my gremlin comes with all the strategies of drinking coffee and watching TV and playing games, and yeah, that I don't have to feel this fear, really, to avoid it, to feel fear. And I also noticed that I have, mostly in the relationships with my children, I have this part of gremlin strategies to how to say, I am the boss and you have to do what I'm saying. So, and I can see how it cuts the connection to my children. And yeah, I also noticed that it's not helpful to be present with my children. So all this neurotic speaking and listening. Yeah, and I would like to change this. I would like to know more about my Gremlin and how to use it, and his creative power. Because sometimes he also said to me, "Oh, it's so boring for me. Can we do something special so I can have more fun?" So I know he likes to solve problems, maybe, or yeah, something like this.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Nada.
Yes. My pain is my gremlin is really smart and very strong, and the pain I get is that I'm not able really to create what I want, because my gremlin gets bored really fast and I cannot push through and pull through things until the end. It likes to have a easy way in, easy way out kind of things, fast, next new things. And the biggest pain is that some relationship with people, I am unable to have a radical kind of relating or adult relating, because my gremlin comes in and protects me. So, but I'm not able to create what I want to create, either in like projects or in relationships with some people.
How does your gremlin protect you? In what ways? From creating
Fear. Fear, not trusting, aggression, paranoia, resentment. It's just a strategy to confirm that the outside world is not safe. So we stay alone and we do our things alone, and it's just you and me, and we don't need anyone else. We do our projects alone. And yeah, because yeah.
Does that resonate also with you, Angela?
Yeah. Safer to be alone.
Is there any
Yeah.
sense, Nada?
I just really want to be able to create and be completely in, like, standing on clarity and actually have an amazing relationship with my grandma, because I love him, her, and I just want to be able to create and to actually, and also to have fun. Yeah, I love having fun, but I don't want to have fun, the destructive fun. I want to have fun that empowers me and actually empowers everyone else around me.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad that we have such a variety of needs also from this space, because it gets us to speak a little bit more about Gremlin and Gremlin work, Gremlin transformation work, and also to introduce what Devin and I are offering, which is the Gremlin transformation journey. It's called Own Your Underworld, a Gremlin transformation journey in 3 chapters. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and how it relates to these to these questions that you brought in. Well, first thing, what is Gremlin? A little bit of this is these distinctions, or this clarity is brought in Expand the Box training. And in an Expand the Box, there's so many maps, so many experiments that it's very easy to be liquid and not really get what is Gremlin. And it actually takes years to fully start getting what is your Gremlin. The Gremlin is a part of you. It's a part of us. It never goes away. And it isn't as a part that it's not good, it's not particularly good, and it's not bad. It's a part of us that is able to break rules, to break our own rules, break rules of others. And it's a part that doesn't really care about the morals of our belief system. That's how you can, have a rule about something and then kind of bend that rule or break that rule or bypass that rule in order to achieve something else. And just a second. For example, does anyone know football? Have heard of the sport called football? In America, it's called soccer. Yeah. So at some point in the game, there's a thing called the free kick, where a player will kick a ball towards the goal. But instead of being direct as a penalty, it has a barrier of players from the opposite team, sometimes also from the same team, to kind of not make it a direct shot, right? The player who's kicking the ball is more valuable if they can manage to kick the ball in a curved way so that it bypasses the barrier and shoots and aims and hits the goal, basically. So this kind of technique, it's not good or it's not bad. It's really helpful for going around barriers. It's probably not so good for penalty kicks, but it's really good for going around barriers. And this possibility to go around, to find a way where there seems to be none, that is a characteristic that is the biggest source of power of your gremlin, of that part of you. So you see that throwing a curveball is not good or bad. It's just like a cool skill that is really needed for a free kick. The same thing of breaking rules. It's not good or bad, but it's a very handy tool, a very handy skill to have if you're having a rule that basically doesn't allow you to do something that you really want to do. Like what Nada was saying, I want to be able to create this, and I can't. And so there's various ways about what could be happening. And so we also say that Gremlin is the king and queen of your underworld. So your underworld is basically the part of your life, of your powers, of your essence that is unconscious. It is not an evil part of your life. It's not a bad part of your life. It is unconscious, meaning that it's running on automatism, on previous decisions, unconscious decisions in the past. It's basically all of these parts of ourselves that are operating and impacting our life, but we don't have any power because we don't have any clarity. We don't really know how it happens that I try to do this thing and this other result happens. This is what we mean with underworld. And so some of the shadow principles or the forces of nature that tend to happen in the space and with unconscious purposes is things like confusion, misunderstanding, resentment, revenge, because we're not aware of the processes on which, like, all the forces at play inside of ourselves that makes us do whatever we do. So this is what means underworld. And so the gremlin being able to get in and out of a rule is the king of the underworld, because it basically serves and protects and guards this part. And in the gremlin transformation journey, we'll talk a little bit more about that, because it's the even our underworld and our survival strategies that we have developed, that everyone has developed to survive. That means that you've developed some kind of skill, and that skill doesn't go away. Like, for example, I grew up very adaptive to other people, trying to be whatever other people wanted me to be, or what I thought other people wanted me to be. So that made me like very sensitive to others, able to really recognize the needs of other people or their desires. And so even though I've reclaimed back my authority and my power, and I'm no longer adaptive, I still have the skill of sensing into people really with that specificity. And so you also developed all these skills with your underworld, and these are also skills and powers of your gremlin. Do you want to say anything about what is a gremlin? Because you've done a lot of work.
One thing I want to say is that I don't think did you talk about the protective?
A little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've discovered in some processes is that there are these handshakes we make with our gremlin at different points in our lives. And most of these remain unconscious to us as adults, but there are these moments where as little children, life was so overwhelming, or the environment that we were growing up in was so hostile, or we were so sensitive. We were so sensitive to what people were really up to, what was happening, and that in order to survive, we needed something that could take us out of this experience, or that could take over for us as children. And so one of the things that we've discovered is this protective aspect of the gremlin, where at key moments in life, you made a deal with your gremlin. And it was something like, get me out of here. Or it was something like, I just can't take it anymore. And your gremlin stepped in and started doing some of the protective strategies that you are probably still doing in your life today, which could include telling stories of, I have to do it alone. No one's there for me. I'm too big. People aren't trustworthy. In the end, no one actually loves each other. So it could be these kinds of stories, or it could be conclusions, or a million other things. But it's one of the keys that we've discovered recently, and maybe not so recently, that we've discovered. And part of this work of gremlin transformation is shifting the gremlin, transforming the gremlin from these original purposes of protecting us at all costs, or making us insensitive, or in one way or another, making it so we could survive. So shifting from this original purpose to the purpose that we want, to serving our evolution, or helping us break rules that allow us to bring more of our work, or more of our soul or heart into the world, or supporting us in creating the kind of collaborative, wild, non-linear relationships that maybe up to this point have been impossible to experience. So there's kind of this and this is part of why we've divided the gremlin transformation journey into a couple of different chapters. Do you want to go into that?
No, we'll save it later. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, go ahead.
Masha, you had more like, what is gremlin? Is it more or less covered? Is it enough for you, or do you have any specific questions you want to ask?
Sorry, there's a fire here.
No, I was asking Masha. Sorry, Angela.
No, there's a fire here. I have to.
Okay.
This was the loud sound. We have to.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just mute you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it's a bit difficult to understand what is gremlin and what is not gremlin. Like to differentiate between, and then if there's gremlin, who am I without the gremlin, sort of thing.
Yes. So usually it takes some time to realize like what is gremlin, what is not, and you know, and realizing how much actually gremlin has been driving your life. And most people that I know that have been doing this kind of work have their heart broke, basically, to realize how much unconscious gremlin has been driving the car. And you can recognize gremlins through self-observations, through experimentation, and basically we call that gremlin hunting. And so it's seeing, it's little, it can be in the energetic body, it could be in the emotional body, it could be in the physical body, it could be in the mental body. There's all of these areas, these domains of our lives where gremlin can be basically doing the decision, driving the boat, doing the communication. For example, most people have experienced in school this thing of delivering a paper or an essay last minute, right? So the deadline was there was enough time, and it usually happens the student procrastinates, doesn't do anything for a really long time, and then comes at the last minute, last day, and just sometimes last hours, sometimes a little bit over the deadline, and creates this text basically, or this work. So it's the gremlin that has been acting, not only in the procrastination, the not doing the thing that we said we were going to do, basically delivering it on time, not having integrity, but also the gremlin is the force that just gets us out of there, just basically delivers that inspiration last minute over pressure. The gremlin basically is the source, the biggest source of non-linearity in your life. It's basically this huge channel that you have of non-linearity. But non-linearity doesn't care about deadlines. It doesn't care about what your mom said you should do. It doesn't care about what your boss said you should do. It doesn't even care about what you said, what you yourself said you should do. It doesn't care about shoulds. And it wants non-linearity. It wants, like what Nada was saying, her gremlin gets really bored, and Nicole also said that. Our gremlin thrives on non-linearity, on surprise, on spontaneity, on fun, on chaos. And so it's this part of us that is really fed by it. But usually, and this is the big issue, is that in modern culture, we don't have any distinction about gremlin. And when we go to school, basically we have rules. We're indoctrinated into a society based on rules. And it's like growing up and seeing, well, there's a rule for this, there's a time to eat, there's a time to speak, there's a time to eat, there's a time to have sex, there's a time to, and it drives gremlin insane. It just drives gremlin insane, because then how can a force of nature like that live? And so this is basically how you start recognizing. You start recognizing, and we're going to do some practices here about it. You start recognizing about how, how's your integrity? What are the commitments that you said you're going to do and that you're not doing? How are you speaking with other people? Are you like throwing a little hook of attack or defending yourself, and having these kind of war conversations with another person where I'm right, no, I'm right, and that doesn't really lead anywhere. These sort of conflicts also gremlin really likes, because they're full of energy, basically emotional energy. And so by basically seeing what our gremlin is doing, that's how we can see what our gremlin is about. Usually even first starting observing other people's gremlins, and then we start seeing that, oh my God, I also have that, I also have that. That's how it is really effective to recognize gremlin. And I want to say this, and not going too in much detail about that, is that gremlin thrives on what we call in possibility management, low drama. Low drama is basically any action or inaction that is designed to avoid responsibility. And this is why does gremlin thrive on irresponsibility? Because the way that we've learned to relate to responsibility is that it's a set of rules, and it's a burden, and that's just the opposite of what gremlin is. Gremlin is like being an eccentric artist that eats potato chips at 6 a.m. while listening to opera on his bathtub and creates an amazing piece of art, you know. And so these things, you know, this in responsibility, usually people have like, no, that's not being a responsible adult. And so this is why gremlin has been really tied into irresponsibility. And that in modern culture lives at a child level of responsibility, where it's actually cool to avoid responsibility. Like when you're not paying your taxes, where you're not paying your taxes, where you're not doing this thing, where you're avoiding paying the ticket for the subway, you know, like all the cool things that you can do to avoid participating responsibly in life. Or instead of saying to a friend, I'm not coming, I forgot my phone, or you lose, like all of these things, that instead of basically taking a stand in your adulthood and say, I don't want this anymore, and risk someone feeling feelings, getting angry or sad. Instead of this, gremlin comes and makes up an excuse or creates a way that you're not clear, you're not powerful. So all of these, because that's basically what society has been encouraging. Not clarity, not directness, but obedient people, or very sneaky people that get really rich at the expense of others, basically. It's a gremlin. It's actually a gremlin society without any clarity and distinction about gremlin, and how gremlin can really serve higher purposes, like much, can really serve love, can really serve intimacy and connection. Yeah.
Thank you. That is useful. And at the same time, I'm sorry to say, but I confused the times, and I thought it would be 1 hour earlier. And I noticed I cannot really follow because I'm falling asleep. So I don't want to be rude, but I think I need to go, and I would love to watch the recording if that's an option.
Thank you for being clear and for saying this and then leaving. Okay,
Thank you.
Yourself.
Thank
I'll stop
you.
the recording. Thank you, Masha.
Bye-bye. Are there any other questions about anything we've talked about so far, or things that we haven't talked about yet?
So I'll say a little bit about what is gremlin transformation, because also part of modern culture is this idea that, you know, this good and evil from a lot of religions, and mainly Christianity, but not only Christianity, about, you know, underworlds or hell worlds is bad, and the heaven, which is where love and light live, is the good thing. And so gremlin, of course, is part of the bad guys. This way of seeing life and basically the world has created this idea that gremlin is bad. Because again, we only see gremlin when it's like to rob or to steal or to sneak or to manipulate. And for sure, it can really thrive. Gremlin can really develop a lot of skill in this. But also that's why, because modern culture is basically gremlin culture, so then it gets to develop its skills in this environment. But actually, and this is part of the gremlin transformation journey, is to start noticing and basically falling in love with your gremlin. Not also So also not to go to the other extreme where, you know, some people have the gremlin is bad and I should kill it and I should just throw him away. And the purpose of gremlin transformation surely should be to destroy my gremlin and pretend that I don't have it anymore, or to heal it so that it doesn't do what it does. So that's one extreme. But the other extreme is gremlin is great. It's my gremlin is the most awesome in the world. It's better than yours. It kind of in what's that word? Not data.
Glorify.
Yeah, glorifying gremlin. So gremlin, like I said, it's not bad, but it's also not particularly good. It's like any tool, like a knife. You can use your knife to chop vegetables or for chopping people's fingers. And none of them are good or bad. You know, but it's sharp. It has a purpose. It has a skill. A knife has a skill. The gremlin also has access to some cool things, and you can use them either for manipulating or for creating connection. And so the gremlin transformation journey comes in for you to fall in love with the gremlin and realizing how much your gremlin has been saving your life. How much your gremlin has been, despite of you, like some people hate their own gremlin. Despite of you hating your gremlin, it has still been serving you. It cannot actually stop serving you. And so recognizing that nothing that your gremlin does is also without your own allowance, and realizing that the power of this, well, if it's because I allow it, then I can work towards disallowing, giving gremlin other jobs, cooler jobs that will help my life now that I have more clarity about what I want. So how we do this is basically we start initiating the gremlin, or initiating yourself. Well, an initiation is basically any process after which the person or you are capacitated to take more responsibility. So more responsibility meaning taking more action, being more aware, being able to cause change, to cause transformation in a space. If after a process you are able to take care of something that you weren't taking care of before, then you went through some kind of initiation. And by initiating yourself into a more an adult, a more clear and powerful adult, your gremlin also starts transforming. Because the more that you are aware of things, the more that your gremlin is aware of things. The more that your being shines and grows and develops, the more your gremlin also shines and develops. And so the gremlin transformation journey is about noticing how your gremlin has been serving you, and then starting to really get to know your gremlin better. So a lot of the previous years that I've noticed in possibility management, people doing possibility management, is that they would start by doing this hardcore discipline. And for some gremlins, that is exactly the best way to do. Unruly gremlins, and just because a lot of people have just been allowing stuff to happen in their lives. My most recent work is mostly about seeing how just blind discipline doesn't work for everybody. And it actually becomes another tool of the box rules. And then actually the gremlin becomes a bit more distant, and it's harder to collaborate with gremlin. And so part of the first, the gremlin journey actually is to fall in love with your gremlin, get to know him or her, get to know how you would get to know a new person in your life. What are your favorite things? What you don't like to do? What is the things that you're more committed to than others? What is your favorite foods, your favorite color? How do you respond to this or that situation? And because when you start getting to know your gremlin better, it becomes much more clear what is the purpose of any of the gremlin's actions. And it becomes much more easier to apply a kind of a diet where you will feed your gremlin consciously and not just basically fall asleep and let gremlin eat whatever it wants to eat. So even in the act of feeding, it's a conscious thing. It's like, here you go. I want you to thrive. I want you to survive. I want you to help me. Here's some food right now. But it's not like, just here's the cookies, like, then let go, basically that. And so when I heard you, Nicole, and you said, I don't want to put my gremlin on a leash, that was really interesting to me, because a lot of people think that the leash is a way to control your gremlin. And you yank the leash and you're like, come sit, and it's basically a domination tool. So I hope you're hearing me because I can't see your video, but I'm gonna say this anyway. The leash is a connection tool. It's actually a distinction, because now the gremlin is connected, consciously connected to you. When you put him on a leash, you can know where your gremlin is and what's it doing. Because, like, imagine my arm's a leash. And I'm your gremlin, let's say, if I'm here doing something, I'm going to be pulling on. And so you can feel the tug, because I'm going to be here doing something else. And so I notice what my gremlin's wanting to say or doing, because I can feel the tug. And I use the tug of the leash. And I use the leash also to communicate, to kind of go, hey, come here, or hey, go check that out. And so it's more of a distinction of connection than a domination tool. So I don't know if you had that understanding before, but I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you for this distinction. It's really so that I thought it's like I have to control him.
Mhm.
So, and I have to say, so now you can feed and now you can't do it. So, and then, yeah, for example, I like drinking coffee. My gremlin too. So I try to make a diet like just drinking 2 times a week coffee, not every day. And it doesn't work for me. So yeah, so I have this thinking of I cannot do it to put him on a leash, like controlling and telling him what he have to do or not.
Yes. So we're going to go into that in the gremlin transformation journey. But basically, what we would do in the journey would be to find out, okay, what is it about the coffee that your gremlin likes? What is it about the coffee that you like? What is it that really feeds your gremlin drinking coffee? What is really the thing? What is really the purpose? And so, for example, I love coffee. My physical body craves bitterness, real, like that kind of bitterness. And my gremlin loves the excitement, the like, just juggling lots of things at the same time, really spreading my attention everywhere. So I just started drinking decaf. I have, my box, who was a coffee snob, expanded into a box that is not a coffee snob anymore. And I drink decaf coffee. So I still have this great thing for the liver that is the bitterness. I have a warm drink, and my gremlin doesn't get fed on the days that it's not supposed to get fed. And then I actually, for a while, for a really long time, I have stopped drinking coffee, exactly to separate that contamination that I had of my gremlin just wanting things really fast, so that I can have experience of my life in a different way. But that's one of the things that I started doing. Drink 2 decafs a day, or whatever, how many I want, but my gremlin gets fed only in those days. And this really seemed to work, and it actually seemed to work with a lot of people, to have an alternative to coffee.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Depends on the purpose.
Yeah, I'm curious about this course. What I noticed is the purpose of my gremlin is to numb myself. It's it's a kind of making a break and do not think about anything or something like this.
Yeah.
So that I have the imagination of having a break, but not of recovery.
Yeah. Well, for me, I don't know. Do you have anything about that? I do, but
I mean, I have a similar, there are a couple things. One, I have a very similar aspect of my gremlin. That's what it's devoted to is basically just obliterating me so that I don't feel anything, I don't experience anything. And one of the main ways that my gremlin did that for a long time was with different types of food, definitely caffeine, with cigarettes when I used to smoke, with drugs and alcohol earlier in my life. So lots of different ways over the years in what other contexts might call something like addictive behavior. And just something to what Vera was talking about earlier with creating rules. So it's possible to just throw all these things on a list and create these rules about, okay, I cannot do this, I cannot do this, I cannot do this. And this rule machine is really our box, that our box is the one that creates rules. And because the gremlin is so interested in rulelessness, or basically a rule for the gremlin is something to violate, to challenge. So this can create in some people with the diet this war basically between their box wanting one life and their gremlin wanting another life, and sort of a tug of war that never ends between the box saying, I want it this way, or I want to be a good, yeah, go ahead.
Because this I don't understand now, because maybe you said it beforehand where I was running around here. Because as far as I understood until now, the gremlin is the one who is defending the box. Yeah, and when you now said box wants one thing and gremlin wants another thing, because I would understand it when you say my higher being wants one thing, but my gremlin wants to defend my box, and by this wants something else.
Yeah.
This I would, but now I could. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I have a couple of things that I'd say about it. One is the yes, the gremlin is also devoted to protecting us at any cost, including our box. So anytime our box has an experience where it's like, or we approach the edge of our box and it's uncomfortable, typically we just don't approach that because we have a built-in mechanism that starts to vibrate in us that says, this is an edge. Unless we're in transformational work, we're actually going for that. But when we keep going past this sort of vibrating crazy, I'm approaching an edge, often our gremlin will come in, and it's like the backup forces saying,
Okay.
it's like the part, it will throw a tantrum. I've noticed that this is one of my big gremlin things, is throwing a tantrum when I really get too close to the edge of my box. So there's that aspect of the gremlin. But there is also this other aspect of the gremlin that's just about rules, about things having to be a specific way, which is just one part of the box, is this machine that's based on automatic rules about this is supposed to go this way, this is supposed to go this way. And so one of the ways that I clarified this for myself, discovered it for myself, is part of my box is a total good boy. And maybe, are there any good girl people who have good girl boxes here? Okay.
recovering.
Which meant I just wanted to.
They have both.
Yeah.
Can you have both?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the rebel and the nice girl at the same time, depending on the.
What do you think, Vera? What would you say?
I mean, I think what it's more, the boxes would be the, like, your personality in the world, and then you also have a gremlin, and the gremlin is not a good boy or a good girl. So it seems more that that a part of you is the good girl, because it's not just, you don't have one box. There's one box that is the most kind of familiar. And then there's all this gremlin contamination that could be happening where you think you're being responsible and you're being active and adult, and it's actually not. That it's actually rebelling, or it's actually challenging, or it's actually expecting, or it's actually, you know, creating expectations onto the other people. And I think you have a culture box as well. Oh, so for example, people in countries like the United States or even Brazil or Egypt, or in the case of Nada, they're really heavy on gremlin. You know,
Ja.
and then there's
Bori, ich kann gerade nicht, sorry.
and there's other basically cultures that are so fixed, so fixed on rules. You know, Northern European countries are usually very rule focused, where more Southern European countries are more like 5 minutes means half an hour, and so all of this might also be applying to you, Nada. That's actually your birth culture box happening, which is very full of, like, contaminated with gremlin.
Yeah.
So you might have two. I mean, you have more than one, but you're influenced by that one too.
Did you have more on the rules and gremlin box?
No, I think this is kind of enough for now, but I wanted to say that more about the purpose of gremlin transformation. Does anyone else have a question before we continue?
I'm at the moment really a bit concerned because really close to us, it's the next, so like 150 meters or so, a house is burning. And I carried 2 fire extinguisher there, even though I can't carry anything. And I'm not sure if we should go in a place to be maybe evacuated. I don't know. I'm feeling strange somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So part of me can listen, and part of me is just like, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that. I mean, please do what you need to do. And
Yeah.
if you not be here, it's totally okay. And this is going to be recorded.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions that we would speak into the recording so that you also can listen, please do so. And if you want to stay and just keep being in the space as much as you can, it's also right. I completely trust that you take care of yourself, and there's no expectation from that you should be, because you can.
Yeah, no, I think I should go again. Yeah. And of course, I have a lot of questions, but I don't know them now.
Okay.
Yeah, but we will have some time together. So
Yes.
Yes.
good. Thank you.
Angela.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Now I think we could talk a little bit about our training.
Yeah.
Well, we had this idea of dividing the training into 3 parts, and this is mainly because the work of Gremlin is so vast. I mean, this is like lifetime of collaboration and work, but we just wanted to get a chance to have some basics and also to make sure that a lot of people would also work on feeding the Gremlin with high drama, with things that are actually serving the purpose of like your pearl or your archetypal lineage or your bright principles. And so there's a whole path, let's say a whole journey in order to get there. But of course, that in order for your Gremlin, actually we discovered that in order for your Gremlin to really start serving you and your archetypal lineage, because you are serving your archetypal lineage, because you have repurposed basically your Gremlin. You have trained him or her and fed him or her and have just established a completely relationship. So basically you repurposed your Gremlin to serve you, to serve your archetypal lineage. In order for the Gremlin to do that, the Gremlin needs to be responsive to your requests. It needs to be in clear communication with you. And most people don't have very clear communication. They don't access the information really from Gremlin. They can only hear the low drama, basically communications from Gremlin, or the kind of victim-y stories or the perpetrator communication, but not more. And so we work on the communication, we work on getting to know the Gremlin so that you establish a relationship of trust, so that your Gremlin trusts that you take care of him, that you are not going to starve him to death because now you're doing Gremlin transformation work. This is one of the biggest fears that Gremlin has once you start going on possibility management, is that first it's like, holy shit, they found me. She found me. Now she's going to try to destroy me because Gremlin knows everything that you know, because it's a part of you. So sometimes I hear people saying, my Gremlin wants this. And okay, you can also say that for starting distinguishing, but at some point it's really a part of you. Gremlin is a part of you. It's not separate. And so your Gremlin knows when you're bullshitting, because guess who's doing the bullshitting? It's your Gremlin. So you cannot trick your own Gremlin, because you would be using Gremlin to trick Gremlin. So it's like you cannot fool Gremlin. Gremlin knows when you're being honest with him or her, knows when you're not. And so there's really only one way to establish a relationship of trust, and is by having integrity with your Gremlin, feeding, like completing your commitments with Gremlin, feeding high drama foods, feeding low drama foods, especially in the beginning, because a lot of low drama foods become clear. You become clear as well with and really feed food that really nourishes your Gremlin, not just little breadcrumbs. And so finding ways to commit to really taking care of this force of nature. And slowly, your Gremlin's going to become a bit more trustworthy to you. It's going to listen. It's going to come here when you ask him to come here. It's going to tell you the things that he sees because he knows that he can trust you. And so we established this relationship of trust mainly with Gremlin food in the first chapter. And it's really not about blind discipline, it's about clarity. Only then we go into a process of Gremlin reconstruction. So Anne-Chloe, we're going to invite Anne-Chloe to come and deliver a process, a healing process, which is that reclaims a part of your Gremlin that might have been put away, a part of your creativity, a part of your wildness, a part of your juiciness that could be like cut off or be put away because it was not okay. And so I know that Nicole, you spoke a little bit about that, and also Angela about this wild energy that is not allowed. And so, yeah. And so this process can only happen after you really start to get to know your Gremlin. And then we have a second chapter. Do you want to say? Please say something.
What's the name? I forget the name.
It's the pitfalls and traps, pitfalls, and powers of Gremlin.
Okay, yeah. So during the second chapter, it's continuing work with the diet, and also making sure that basically the diet is growing along with how we start to use Gremlin, or how you start to use Gremlin for high drama, or for serving what you want to serve in your life. So it's the beginning of not just putting the Gremlin on a diet, but also integrating the bigger foods and finding out what Gremlin in terms of high drama. I mean, sometimes we can think of high drama as doing anything that we think will make our life, like working on a website or something like that. And while that might be an important thing to do, it doesn't necessarily feed Gremlin these juicy high drama meals. So it's really discovering what are the ecstatic spaces that your Gremlin actually loves. Or if you're in an emotional healing process, coaching someone, what is the type of non-linear space holding that your gremlin goes into this space and walks out, and transformation has happened, and your gremlin is really fed by it. So these things aren't so obvious, because for the most part, we have never ever fed our gremlin high drama food. It's just not, unless it's been accidental. And it really takes a process of discovery about what particular things your gremlin likes. So this middle chapter is opening that door up. And also the diet is, the recommendation for the working with the gremlin on a diet is to be on the diet for 1 year. And during that year, you will have experiences of the diet being really clear and really working. And also a part of the diet is the gremlin diet not working at all, and totally getting off track for a week or a month, or getting knocked unconscious and doing all the old behaviors and coming back, finding out what happened. So this is this middle chapter of this is what this middle chapter is devoted to.
And it's also about this kind of insanity of gremlin, this real just the crazy part of the gremlin that can just make moves that nobody else can make, like asking a complete stranger for help in a particular way, or traveling to Egypt for no reason whatsoever, and being able to be this crazy, mainly this unpredictable.
Something I want to say, the gremlin has access to total insanity. There aren't other parts of us that have this kind of access, and being able to go into totally insane stuff outside of the range of what your box is able to do is so useful and so needed in terms of holding big spaces, in terms of completing or starting or working on the jobs that your archetypal lineage sends to you. So this is also a part of it, just giving gremlin the space to unwind, to totally unravel, and let your energetic body expand into something that can hold bigger and bigger types of non-linearity.
Yeah, and also let the bright principle of play come in a decontaminated way, because a lot of people's creativity in relationship to play have a lot to do with gremlin. And so when you start realizing how gremlin, what gremlin play is, or what is it in play that feeds your gremlin, what is it in theater that feeds you, what is it in actually really, like what is it in control that feeds your gremlin? How does your gremlin get fed with control? And how can you feed your gremlin the thing that it gets fed without using gremlin to control a person or a space? Like, for example, I worked with a client who one of his low drama foods was having arguments on, like, being right, basically being right. And as a first step, which would be the first chapter, and I just want to say hello, Andrea, for arriving here.
Hello, Andrea.
We're explaining what's the second chapter of our journey is going to be like. So they really wanted to, one of the big, like, juicy, like nothing else was feeding the gremlin as much, was being right and having these arguments. And so as a first step, started, okay, once a week you have a Facebook argument, not like, you horrible person, but you go on these forums, because that's what these forums are for. They're gremlin feeding places. They're not for changing people's minds, because no mind gets changed unless they want to be changed. So they're really just for that. So once a week, go there and pick up on an argument and explain, unravel your argumentation skills, and go there and go bit by, like, line by line, what you said, all of these things that are super juicy for some gremlins. And so he started doing this for a while, and what he realized, that there was a kind of poetry that was coming out of these messages. And that was some of the thing that was really turning this gremlin on is that they had like this clarity about some things that are really not okay with him. And so he started writing. So feeding high drama, we started writing about all the stuff that is not okay in the world and the stand that he's taking. So creating high drama, but using that clarity and that poetry that can really say adjectives like vicious and insidious, and like can really get to the point of what is actually happening in, let's say, a court of law, which is lobbying for corporations to continue to pollute a river. And he was just amazing at this. So he discovered that one of the things that he can feed his gremlin about this kind of like clarity and getting to the that thing was doing this. So we are going to find out what high drama foods we can first start giving to your gremlin in a way that it will start developing more and more. And that's such a fun, creative process to be part of.
And then chapter 3.
Oh, wait, I want to hear
yeah.
if there's any questions.
Yeah, food, the diet, is it mainly like addiction kind of things related to food and drinks, and or it's also behaviors and
Any action or inaction designed to avoid responsibility is low drama, and it's food for gremlin. Any action or inaction that is designed to avoid responsibility is food for gremlin.
I got it. Inaction.
Action or inaction, yes.
Inaction. And now it's like, oh, inaction. Okay.
For example, a lot of people say this kind of sentence: I forgot this, I forgot to send you a message, I forgot, as if forgetting is a kind of inaction. But actually, gremlin does not forget. It's doing something else instead. So it's a gremlin doesn't doesn't like something. It has resistance. It will be doing something else instead of remembering. And so once having this kind of clarity that there's nothing that your gremlin is not doing, but that's why I say it in action, because inaction is still an action of avoiding responsibility. Okay. Part 3 is massive surprise, and really can't really explain what part 3 is, but it's basically using your gremlin to do amazing, awesome moves to help you deliver your non-material value in the world, for living the thing that you want to live, for living full out, out of the confines of your own like rules of how you should behave or not behave, but not just in a kind of, I'm going to break the rule for no reason, or I'm just going to break the rule so that I break the rule. No, you break the rule for and create something extraordinary and have a lot of fun doing it. And so this is the purpose, and it will be very, of course, custom made to whoever is there and whoever's also already worked on this journey together.
Yes, so high adventure,
High adventure,
wild thinking, pulling stuff apart and putting it back together in more useful, strange, unusual, helpful ways. It's really the
in teams.
It's really the potential of your gremlin, practicing with the potential of your newly transformed, woken up, shifted gremlin.
We have 15 minutes, so let's do a little practice.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions before we move to a little experiment?
Okay.
Right.
One of the things that we asked well, the thing that we ask people to have before starting the first week of the Gremlin transformation journey is their list of 50 foods. And there are certain questions that are helpful for helping to discover what these foods are that we might not necessarily think of as food so often. What we wanted to do is, in these last 15 or so minutes, take some space to first ask a question and first grab, yeah, so grab your notebook and your pen. And what we'll do is we'll just ask a question into the space, and you just write down your answers to the question. And then we'll move on to the next question, and maybe we'll do 2 or 3 of these, and then we'll, yeah.
Mhm.
And then we'll share a little bit about what we discover. Okay, so the first question.
Question 1.
Question number 1. What are your excuses? So what are the excuses you've used or have used or continue to use for why you're not on time, or why you don't fulfill a commitment, or why you don't tell someone what you want when you know what you want?
Yeah, tell us your favorite excuses, the one that you use the most. We're gonna have a couple of minutes. And begin.
It's for everything, to not be on time and to.
Yeah, just write the excuse itself. You don't need to put the context.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, one more minute. Not doing something that you said you were gonna do. Not doing the experiment that you committed to. And come to an end.
Okay, next question.
Are you guys ready? Nicole, are you ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Super.
Okay, next question. Question number 2 about resentment. So what are the resentments that are in your life that define your life? These could be institutions, these could be people, these could be situations.
Yeah, it could be in relationship to money, or to the world, or it could be to your job, or your partner. Like, and so, right, I resent this. I resent that did not happen to me, or I resent that, I don't know, that I didn't know about Gremlin before, or I resent that I was born poor or rich. Yeah, it could be about anything, but just write the resentments that you have. Also, if nothing comes, you can write the shoulds. The shoulds, like, it should be like this, it should be so, it should not be so.
Let's do one more. Okay, about 20 more seconds.
Alrighty.
And question number 3. How has life treated you unfairly? How has life treated you unfairly? That you weren't born into the right situation, you didn't have enough money, teachers at school didn't like you, no one recognizes you for who you are or what you do.
Someone that didn't see you as they should have. You didn't get something that you really wanted and you just didn't get it. Okay. Please come to an end. Okay, let's really please come to an end so that we have a few minutes of sharing. Nicole. Yeah. So if you read about the things that you have, what do you start already noticing? The things that you wrote down.
Yeah, that I create a story for myself to believe, so that somehow it validates my actions, or it validates my sensation, my feelings.
What kind
Especially
of,
for the last one. The last question was very, for me, I see, oh, I told this story to myself before, you know?
yeah.
And I identify with it in some way.
So yeah, if you start looking, the first question starts giving you all these conclusions, these gremlin conclusions. They're all little gremlin hooks, little gremlin foods about how it is, how you are. But instead of, because all of these excuses have some kind of clarity too, like something that you're not taking care of, that you're not being clear about, that you're not negotiating, so that you might more or less have what you were wanting, or that you can negotiate towards having what you want. But instead of doing that, of taking responsibility, you're just pushing it away with an excuse. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I don't know if you want an example. Do you have an example for this, Nicole, for example? Like an excuse, one of your favorite excuses that you have?
My favorite one. Yeah, I have no time for that, or I have no resources for that.
Yeah. So what if saying I have no time, where in the triangle of the low drama triangle does that put you in?
Yeah. I can see it in every 3 questions you told, that I'm the victim of the circumstances. So yeah.
Exactly. And so, you can use the conclusion to make you a victim. You can use your anger to make you a victim. Or you can, or have these expectations, and they might even seem reasonable. But the thing is that all of these energetic, emotional, intellectual, and sometimes physical moves turn you. It's like you accept yourself to turn into a victim. And this is how Gremlin really operates, at a very subtle level with the conclusions, at a very big level with the I'm treated unfairly, it's not fair. It's like one of the big Gremlin tantrums is like, it's not fair, it should not be so, life should be of a certain way. And so all of these things that we're going to start, this is all part of Gremlin hunting, basically. And it's about getting these little but they're big, because they start helping you map your Gremlin. So the sentences that I have a tendency to have, they're a little bit different than Devin's. And then you start seeing bigger themes of things that are more like, this is bigger for my Gremlin. My Gremlin is more about a particular type of food, or a particular type of control, or a particular type of manipulation than Devin's one. And so then you can start sensing more into the space. That's how you start really observing your Gremlin, observing yourself, and start to work with your Gremlin much more consciously, instead of just like, no, you don't do this, you don't do that. You observe it. You observe and get to know your Gremlin better.
Yeah, this is what shifts a Gremlin diet from a list of rules into a collection of distinctions, or these things are not just theoretically, I shouldn't drink coffee because it's a Gremlin food, but it actually becomes, whoa, okay, so coffee is a way that I numb this enormous sadness I have about not having grown up in a particular way. And I never feel it, so I never get to heal it. And because I never heal it, I'm always in this situation that I keep coming back to, of never being able to move forward. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is for you, Nicole, or you not, but
Yeah.
there are these layers that don't appear until we sort of pull back the surface and actually take a look. And when you do that, the gremlin foods and the gremlin diet just mean something completely different.
Yeah. And so in this case, the next step would be to go one level deeper. You know, what are these gremlin foods really like? How are they really benefiting your gremlin? My gremlin. What is really my gremlin eating with this? And I'm not saying that you would all get like amazing clarity from every single one of them, but you might start getting a little bit more clarity about it. And then your next time that you're feeding your gremlin, Nicole, or even next time you have coffee, whenever it is that you decide to do it on outside of your gremlin feeding schedule. Just notice, what is it? What is it about the coffee that actually feeds your gremlin? And a lot of people have foods, I've noticed, that they're not real foods. They're not really, they don't feel the gremlin so much. And particularly when you start transforming yourself and initiating yourself, your gremlin changes too. So a lot of people who are, for example, in the possibilitator training, it doesn't feed them their gremlin so much eating chocolate. It's like, what, am I gonna eat 2 kilos of chocolate? That doesn't really feed my gremlin, but it used to more, for example. And now they realize, it was a numbing thing. And now I learned how to feel. And now I don't have a problem with feeling and going through emotional healing processes. So I actually, my gremlin doesn't want to eat chocolate anymore. So this might happen to both of you and to people also in the gremlin transformation journey, that you start really seeing what actually really feeds your gremlin. And it might not be what you think. Any last question, like really quick question that we can just say on our way out? Okay.
Thank you for being here and exploring this work with us today.
Yeah, I'm really glad. I'm glad that you're coming to the journey, and you're going to also help us expand the body of knowledge that exists and that's going to exist about gremlins, so that more people can also learn to be with that part of themselves. So thank you so much for being here.
I have a gremlin question.
Go ahead.
Are we gonna have high level fun at some point? I mean, like to create with our gremlin.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes.
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, she's happy.
More particularly with chapter 2 and 3, but also in more subtle ways with chapter 1.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
I'll send this week a logistics, actually today or tomorrow, a logistics email about already a challenge and a practice for this week to prepare for our first call. Okay.
Mm.
And it will be recorded for the people who can't make it because of the Fear Club.
Yeah, I might not be able to make it on the first
Yeah,
one.
I think both of you are in the same situation, and there's more people too. So it will.
Yeah, Masha too.
Yeah, Masha too. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so
right.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
See
You. Bye.
Bye.